Cowboys Nation, you need to stop everything you're doing right now because what I'm about to tell you could completely reshape how Dallas approaches this draft. We're talking about medical red flags, potential dream picks slipping away, and a cornerback connection that has Jerry Jones written all over it. If you've been sleeping on the Cowboys draft strategy, it's time to wake up because this changes everything. Before we dive in, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we drop Cowboys content every single day. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming as we head into draft season. All right, let's get right into the biggest story that has Cowboys fans buzzing all over social media right now. We're talking about Caleb Downs, the Ohio State safety who has been mocked to Dallas more times than I can count. The guy who many people believe could be the best safety prospect we've seen in years. The player who Cowboys fans have been dreaming about pairing with the rest of this young defensive core. Well, there's a major update on his medical situation coming out of the NFL Combine, and it's got people talking for all the wrong reasons. Here's what went down. An NFC scout reportedly told draft analyst Corey Keenan that Caleb Downs had a couple of issues flagged during his medical check at the Combine. Now, before you panic, let me walk you through exactly what was said and what it actually means for both Downs and the Dallas Cowboys. According to the report, Downs was flagged with a partially torn meniscus. Now, in isolation, that's not necessarily a huge deal. Players come back from meniscus issues all the time. It's manageable, it's treatable, it's something teams can work with. But here's where things get a little more concerning. He was also reportedly flagged with what was described as a potentially degenerative ACL. And that phrase right there, degenerative ACL, that's the part that has scouts raising their eyebrows and front offices taking a closer look. Now let me give you some important context here because the internet has a tendency to blow things completely out of proportion. Getting flagged at the Combine does not mean your draft stock is about to fall off a cliff. It doesn't mean teams are going to pass on you. What it means is that something showed up during the medical evaluation that warrants further investigation. That's it. Teams flag players all the time. Some estimates suggest that roughly a third of NFL players get flagged for something during the Combine medical process. Sometimes they go back, get a second opinion, and everything comes back clean. Other times, teams look at the flag, assess the risk, and decide they're comfortable taking the player anyway. It's not a death sentence for a prospect, it's a data point. And here's the thing that makes this even more nuanced. Not every NFL team evaluates medical flags the same way. One team might look at Downs and say, yeah, that's concerning, we're moving on to other options. Another team might look at the exact same medical report and say, you know what, we've seen this before, we're not worried about it, let's draft this guy. Medical evaluations in the NFL are not unanimous, they're subjective, they depend on the team's medical staff, their risk tolerance, their history with similar injuries, and how much they value the player on the field. What's interesting is that multiple NFL teams have already come out and said that nothing in the medical report would deter them from drafting Caleb Downs. Pat McAfee reported on his show that he spoke to multiple teams, and not a single one said there was anything that would make them pass on the Ohio State safety. That's significant. That tells you that while the flag exists, the league-wide perception is not one of panic. Teams still view Downs as an elite prospect. They still see him as a first-round talent. They're just going to do their due diligence, bring him in for a 30 visit, run additional medical checks, and make an informed decision. For the Cowboys specifically, this creates an interesting dynamic. If Downs does experience any kind of slide due to medical concerns, even a small one, that could theoretically push him into Dallas's range at pick 12. Now, multiple analysts have said they don't expect Downs to be there at 12 anyway. He's projected to go higher than that in most mock drafts, but the NFL draft is unpredictable. We've seen players fall for unexpected reasons. We've seen medical flags cause slides that nobody anticipated. If there's even a chance that Downs slips to 12, the Cowboys have to be prepared to pounce. But here's where it gets really interesting for Dallas, because while everyone is focused on the Caleb Downs medical situation, there's been a massive revelation about who the Cowboys are actually targeting with that 12th overall pick. And this might surprise some of you. According to reports, the Dallas Cowboys have a clear preference for which position they want to address early in the draft, and that position is cornerback. That's right, corner, not safety, not edge rusher, not offensive line, corner. And apparently, they have a specific name circled on their board. LSU standout Mansour Delane. Now, if you've been following Cowboys draft coverage, you know that corner has been a position of need for Dallas for what feels like forever. Trevon Diggs is coming off a major injury. The depth behind him has been questionable at best. This team has been torched by opposing passing attacks, and the secondary needs an injection of elite talent. Delane fits that mold perfectly. Here's what the report said. If Mansour Delane is on the board when the Cowboys come on the clock at pick 12, expect that to be a quick decision. A quick decision. That's not the language you use when a team is lukewarm about a prospect. That's the language you use when a franchise has done their homework, fallen in love with a player, and is ready to sprint to the podium to make the pick. The Cowboys want Delane, and they want him bad. But there's a catch. According to the same report, the motivation doesn't currently exist for Dallas to trade up to secure Delane. If they feel another team is zeroing in on the LSU corner, they're more likely to stay put or even trade back rather than move up the board. That tells you something about how the Cowboys are approaching this draft. They like Delane. They might even love Delane, but they're not going to mortgage the future to get him. They're playing it smart. They're waiting to see how the board falls. And if he's there at 12, they're taking him without hesitation. Let me tell you why Mansour Delane makes so much sense for this Dallas Cowboys defense. This guy was absolutely dominant in 2024. We're talking about a 37.1% completion rate when targeted. Let that sink in. Quarterbacks completed less than 4 out of every 10 passes thrown his way. He allowed just 147 yards in coverage. He grabbed 2 interceptions. He recorded 13 pass breakups. And his quarterback rating allowed was a ridiculous 26.7. That's elite. That's shutdown corner territory. That's exactly what the Cowboys need. And here's the part that Cowboys fans are going to love. There's already a connection between Delane and the Dallas organization. Ryan Smith, the Cowboys secondary coach, recruited Delane to Virginia Tech. That's right. Before Delane transferred to LSU, he was at Virginia Tech, and Smith was the guy who brought him in. Delane even spoke about this connection recently, calling Smith his guy and hinting that a reunion could be in the cards. When a prospect already has a relationship with a position coach on your staff, that's a massive advantage. The trust is already there. The communication is already established. The transition becomes smoother. This feels like a match made in football heaven. Now, some people might point out that Delane doesn't have elite size or elite speed, and that's a fair concern. He hasn't run an official 40-yard dash yet, and we'll see what he does at his pro day. But here's the thing about corners. The most important trait is simple. Can you cover? That's it. Can you stick with receivers? Can you anticipate routes? Can you make plays on the ball? Delane checks all of those boxes at an elite level. He's got outstanding feel for coverage in both man and zone schemes. He anticipates throws. He drives on routes. He doesn't get beat. When you watch his tape, you see a player who understands the position at a deep level. That kind of football intelligence translates to the NFL. There's also the historical angle that some Cowboys fans are probably thinking about right now. Dallas has only drafted one LSU corner in franchise history, Morris Claiborne. And let's just say that didn't exactly work out the way anyone hoped. Claiborne was the 6th overall pick in 2012, and his career was plagued by injuries and inconsistency. He never became the shutdown corner the Cowboys envisioned when they drafted him. So there's some skepticism in the fan base about going back to the LSU well for a corner. But Delane is a completely different player. Different skill set, different tape, different situation. You can't judge a prospect based on what a completely unrelated player did over a decade ago. Delane is his own guy, and he deserves to be evaluated on his own merits. Now, here's where the anxiety sets in for Cowboys fans. There's a real possibility that by the time Dallas comes on the clock at 12, the board has been picked clean of their top targets. Think about it. The top 3 edge rushers could be gone. The top off-ball linebackers could be gone. Caleb Downs could be gone, and yes, even Delane could be gone. If all of those players are off the board by pick 12, Dallas is in a tough spot. They'd have to pivot to a player they might not be as excited about, and that's never a good feeling on draft night. The teams picking right before Dallas are the ones to watch. The Commanders at 9 could go corner, especially after the Marshawn Lattimore release. That would be a nightmare scenario. The Chiefs at 10 might not want to spend a first-round pick on a corner since they've got young guys they want to develop. But you never know with that organization. The Bengals at 11 could be looking at a cornerback, and Miami right there as well. That's a lot of corner-needy teams picking before Dallas. The margin for error is slim. If Delane slides past all of them, it's a celebration in Arlington. If he doesn't, the Cowboys are scrambling. And that brings me to the last major storyline coming out of the Combine that Cowboys fans need to know about. Jermod McCoy, the Tennessee corner who was on a lot of radars as a potential Dallas target. This one hurts, and I'm going to be real with you about it. Going into the Combine, McCoy was a player I was incredibly excited to learn more about. He's got all the tools you want in an NFL corner. Length, athleticism, ball skills, playmaking ability. On paper, he's exactly the kind of prospect who could come in and immediately contribute for a team like Dallas that desperately needs help in the secondary. But there's a massive problem. We haven't seen him play a real snap since December of 2024. McCoy tore his ACL in January of 2025 during an at-home training incident. The details on exactly what happened have been sparse, but the result is clear. He missed the entire combine testing process. No 40-yard dash, no vertical jump, no three-cone drill, nothing. And for a prospect whose draft stock was partially built on his athleticism, that's a significant blow. Here's a stat that's going to blow your mind. We have seen Ezekiel Elliott in a Cowboys uniform playing snaps more recently than we have seen Jermod McCoy do anything on a football field. That sounds insane, right? Zeke feels like ancient history at this point. It feels like that was 5 years ago, but that's how long it's been since McCoy has been on the field doing anything football related. That's a red flag, a big one. Now look, ACL injuries are not what they used to be. Medical science has advanced, rehab protocols have improved, players come back from torn ACLs all the time and go on to have incredible careers. But here's the thing that concerns me about McCoy. We're talking about a player who is 14 months removed from his ACL tear, and he still couldn't test at the combine. 14 months, that's a long time. At this point in the recovery process, you'd hope to see a player who's at least close to being able to showcase his athleticism. The fact that McCoy couldn't do that raises questions about where he actually is in his recovery. Now, could things change? Absolutely. McCoy has a pro day coming up, and if he goes out there and looks explosive and healthy and ready to dominate, then maybe you can get back on board. Maybe you can justify the risk. But as it stands right now, in early March, I can't put my name behind drafting Jermod McCoy in the first round. The uncertainty is too great. The risk is too high. When you're picking at 12, you need to come away with a player who can contribute immediately. You need a sure thing, or as close to a sure thing as you can get. McCoy, through no fault of his own, is not that right now. So where does all of this leave the Dallas Cowboys heading into April? Let me paint the picture for you. The dream scenario is Caleb Downs falling to 12 due to medical concerns. If that happens, you sprint to the podium and you take him without a second thought. The guy is a game changer. He's the kind of safety who can transform your defense. He's got range. He's got instincts. He's got the ability to make plays from sideline to sideline. If medical flags cause him to slip even a couple of spots, Dallas has to be ready to capitalize. The realistic scenario is Mansour Delane being there at 12. The Cowboys have clearly done their homework on this guy. They love him. They have a connection through their secondary coach, and everything we've seen on tape suggests he can be a shutdown corner at the NFL level. If Downs is gone and Delane is sitting there, you can feel good about that pick. You can feel like you got a day one starter who's going to come in and immediately upgrade your secondary. The nightmare scenario is the board falling in a way that pushes all of Dallas's top targets off the board before they pick. That would force the Cowboys to either reach for a player they're not as high on or trade back and hope to find value later in the round. Neither of those options is ideal. Neither of those options sets the team up for success the way landing Downs or Delane would. And the wildcard scenario is Jermod McCoy proving at his pro day that he's fully healthy and ready to go. If that happens, suddenly the Cowboys have another elite corner option to consider. But that's a big if. That's a scenario that requires seeing something we haven't seen in over a year. Until McCoy proves it on the field, he has to be considered a risky proposition. Cowboys Nation, this is why the draft is the most exciting and most nerve-wracking time of the year. Every piece of information matters, every medical report matters, every connection between a prospect and a coach matters. The next few weeks are going to be filled with speculation, mock drafts, pro day performances, and endless debates about who Dallas should take at 12. And I'm going to be here breaking it all down for you every single step of the way. If you made it this far, you already know this channel is the place to be for Cowboys content. We're covering every angle. We're analyzing every prospect. We're keeping you informed so you're not caught off guard when draft night arrives. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And drop a comment right now telling me who you think the Cowboys should draft in round 1. Is it Downs? Is it Delane? Is it someone else entirely? Let me know. Let's get the conversation going. Cowboys Nation, the draft is coming, and with it, the chance to reshape this roster for years to come. Stay locked in, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.